This year has been a year of growth, risks, accomplishments, setbacks, and new beginnings. It's been one of our highest mileage years as we've traveled through 14 states and 3 countries. We were fortunate to build our dream Tundra for this year's series, as well as gain new partners and friends. We seized new opportunities and expanded our horizons with new faces and storytellers. We explored the swell of Utah, saw our first all-ladies trip, and tackled the Washington BDR with friends and family. We worked closely with Toyota to showcase the new TRD Pro line with the mission to introduce new influencers to the Overland community. We channeled our inner weekend warrior by exploring new places close to home before heading down under to push our limits across the Simpson Desert deep into the heart of Australia. Upon our return, we said goodbye to Jeff and Heather and began again, expanding our team and initiating the development of future storytellers and explorers that will help take Overland to new levels. It's been one wild ride. This series we call Overlander. Overlander is presented by General Tire. Anywhere is possible. In association with Patriot Campers. And in part by Magpul, apparel and hard goods. Equipped. Warren, go prepared. CBI Off-Road Fabrication. MaxTrax, take the easy way out. Icon Vehicle Dynamics. And the power of Red Arc. So now we are headed to a secret camping spot known as the Eagle's Nest, a place we keep secret. We are here to spend time together, to reflect on our year and develop our opportunities for the future. It's a time for us to just be who we are, to let the boys be boys, including the kids. I invite you now to sit in with us as we attempt to reflect and answer many of the common questions we have encountered when traveling the world and while producing this year's Overlander series.
Yeah? Okay.
Are you ready?
I'll snap these photos and I'll be back to help.
I'm keeping it.
You guys good for now?
On the other side, or just... He's just curious. I'd take them off personally just so people can see your eyes.
Yeah.
They are good. Quiet outside!
You just have the iPad.
I know, I have my phone.
Oh.
Well, today you can't ask for any better day. It's totally non-typical for Expedition Overland, Overlander series, or anything that we've done to stay in one place for a whole day. But I think it's been really good for the whole team. It's good to slow down. We've been going really hard for a long time. Having a ball, having a great time doing it, but it did reveal today how important it is to stop and watch the terrain change around you as the light moves through the day, and slow down, smell the roses. We've had a lot of conversation about a lot of different stuff. We've sat around the fire and we talked about a lot of different things, stuff that we were asked online a lot. It's been pretty insightful to just sit and chat and get into the different aspects that I think a lot of people are curious about when it comes to this type of travel, our business, our show, and like what this whole thing is. One of the biggest questions that we get is, how do you do this? How is Expedition Overland a thing? Do you guys work full-time? Shelly and I have been full-time for 8 years, but it always has been backed by sponsorships. There's been many times when we have pushed the chips in all the way. Some of those expeditions If people knew, you know, if they went wrong, we would have gone bankrupt. So there was some high risk stuff that we did in there. And the sponsorship dollars have grown over the years with companies believing more and more in what we're doing as people, more and more folks are watching our show and hopefully being inspired to go out and explore the world. We've been able to take on bigger projects and continue to fund our show through the networking of individuals who work for corporations that believe in adventure. That's what it boils down to. And I've always said this to our crew and to people along the way that, you know, behind a General Tire is a Tony, is a Travis, you know, behind an Elisa at the time. Behind a Toyota is an Alan and a Paul and a Nathan and a Josh. There's real people that are looking at it and you're dialoguing with that are saying, yes, I believe in this because I believe what you're doing is impacting people, and we want our company associated with that type of an impact. We get told sometimes that we're a sellout. Well, in some ways we are, and I'm 100% okay with that, because thankfully we are sponsored and have sold out to companies that I 100% believe in. So to me it doesn't feel like a sellout. I was a Toyota enthusiast, and we bought our first 4 or 5 Toyotas before we ever received, you know, a truck from Toyota. General Tires, 110% believer in General Tires. Are there other great tire companies? Yes, but General Tire has supported us and their product is awesome. So what more do you want me to say, you know? We are often asked, and it's becoming less and less actually, this question of why aren't you on Discovery Channel or some major network or something like that. Well, up until this point, we have had options. We've been approved for Discovery at one time. We had a letter to air on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning, I can't remember now. We looked around and we just said, I just don't know right now if that's worth it, because it would change the dynamic of who we are as Expedition Overland, what Overland is. And with YouTube, we are in charge of our destiny and can put out the content, the length of content, and say what we want, where we want, when we want. And we've had discussions with networks and things like that, and it always boiled down to more drama, we need more types of this tension, that sort of thing. But there's enough crap in the world. We just want to put out a truly authentic, the best type of story, authentic and true to what happened, that we possibly can.
A lot of what makes these trips go relatively smoothly, and all of us still friends after all these years and keep going out on trips together, is some of the expectations we have as team members out on the trip. And we kind of define that as our expedition behavior, if you would, things that are expected. It's a little different than when we're on just a fun camping trip out in the, you know, the hills, or a local trip, because these ones there's a lot more on the line. And one of the big things is the amount of filming that takes place. These camera guys work their tails off getting in and out of the vehicles all day, but that means it slows down our pace. And when they are filming, it really means that we have to be quiet and really help them, you know, do their job.
You get to go to these amazing places, you get to be around these amazing people, amazing vehicles, you get all these great experiences. Kind of something you don't really think about is like how much work it's going to be. It seems like it's just going to be fun and easy going all the time, which a lot of times it is very fun. But it's like a different type of fun. For the camera world anyways, we're basically on call 24/7. Like if something happens, we need to be there ready at a moment's notice to go film something. We'll sleep with like a GoPro in our pocket, you know, just in case, or we have a couple GoPros on us at all time if we need to grab something. And then the bigger cameras are only an arm's length away, and everything's always charged and ready to go. We have no storyboards. So when we're on a trip somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and if we miss a shot that fills in that gap in the story, we can't go back and get it. So having our gear and our cameras and everything always ready to go is helpful, but it's also kind of the exciting part is like you have to be on point and get all your shots.
Everybody plays and takes on a different role on the team, and there's a lot of overlap in that too. In different days, people take different roles. I mean, generally speaking, you know, particularly Nate and Eric are the guys behind the cameras because they know best. Clay is the, you know, in all intents and purposes is the director, and so he's managing everybody, not just the movement of the show with the cameras and the story that they're telling, making sure that we're, you know, capturing what we need to, but also the whole movement of the team.
Let's go! We're marking this rock as the border.
Myself, particularly like in South America, kind of took on a role more of logistics. And I knew we had to get from A to B in X amount of time because we had, you know, shipping booked for the vehicles. We had flights booked for the people. So there was a lot to manage there. And I remember at one point in South America, Clay and I rode with each other, and we switch up in the vehicles all the time, kind of take turns in different vehicles, keeps it fun. Clay says, man, are we kind of struggling, you know, the two of us, are we kind of battling on, you know, filming this versus, hey, we got to keep moving? I said, absolutely, but you guys get what you need to get with the cameras, and I'll keep saying, hey, we got to keep moving, because at the end of the day, we have X amount of time to film it. And he kind of was like, you know what, you're right, absolutely, you keep pushing us, and I'll keep saying we got to get this, you know, because I know that every time I hear those words like, hey, we got to fly this with the drone, I'm going like, oh man, here's a little bit of time. And I have to, it's me, I have to sit back and realize, like, we're only here because we are going to get that footage. So I always have to just keep reminding myself, hey, we're here because we get that footage, so we got to get the footage, and we still got to get to the destination. So we have to plan routes and plan our daily progress because of that. But it's a good mix. We all understand that's the end goal, and they also understand that, hey, if we want to make it to camp before midnight, we've got a motor. So sometimes I think they would love to fly more or film more or set up more shots, and they have to kind of throttle back too and say, all right, now we're going to put the cameras away and we're just going to motor for a few hours and make some progress. Because it'd be too easy to get caught up in the beauty of the places we go and film too much, and probably more than they'll be able to use in the show. You know, so at the end of the day, and also for my part, it'd be too easy to push us along and rush us. We get to the end and we didn't get any of the footage we needed. So there's definitely a balance there we have to strike and realize. When it comes to kind of putting people in the right roles, really Clay gets all the credit for that, because he's handpicked a team of people that he, you know, sees different strengths and puts them where they want to go. When we're on the trips where Clay kind of is sitting back in a director role, working between the camera and the actual camp life and the actual movement of the team as we go. Sometimes I was more in a position of that navigation and leadership of, you know, who needs to be doing what. And we have all great guys, all of them you can trust behind the wheel, everybody, the guys and gals we have. In fact, like in South America, Rachelle and Heather were some of our strongest drivers. In fact, Rachelle, she loves to drive, so she could drive that Land Cruiser all day long and not be like beat up. And for some of us, you know, it's a good mix to be in and out of different vehicles. She loved that 200, would drive it all day, which is cool. Heather spent a lot of time in the 4Runner with Jeff, surprise, which was cool. But it was good that we had people that could drive all day long, but we had to remember that you had to keep those camera guys free too, because they did a lot of the driving, but they also had to be ready to hop out if something happened, or we popped into this beautiful scene. They had to be ready to hop out and be willing to get the cameras out and go to town. Didn't leave a lot of spares, so everybody had to be willing to drive at any time. So you kind of always had to keep that in the back of your mind, that, you know, you need to be ready all day long.
Somebody would, you know, start a conversation this day but wouldn't finish it, and then another day a conversation would be started, and then we would have to follow those storylines through multiple days. So it got really confusing, as you know, trying to keep all of that organized in your head.
We're kind of constantly on our toes. We're watching for the next thing. We've got to be a step ahead of the storyboard that doesn't exist. We got to be a step ahead of everybody on the team in a way, and we're just kind of guessing what's going to happen.
It was difficult, but at the same time it was fun. I personally learned a lot about myself, and yeah, wouldn't change it for the world.
As the show has progressed and grown and our trips got bigger, our sponsorship obligations got larger, which I was completely okay with. But it did change my role over the years from being a cameraman, cinematographer, director, expedition leader, to more and more and more a director and expedition leader. And I would say I still held the director role more than an expedition leader side. Kurt really has taken on that role many times, especially when it comes to the heavy logistics. We just work closely together now on how those logistics will impact the making of a movie, which is our ultimate goal. That is the expedition of Expedition Overland, is to come out the other end with a film that people want to watch, that will hopefully inspire them. So that turned me more towards the director side, and I had to let go of the cinematography, and I actually feel more comfortable now on the directing side than I do on the cinematography side. It's funny how that all changes over time, but as you grow and get forced and pushed into new areas of big trips, forces you to grow as a person, and you kind of actually find new things out about yourself that, hey, I think this is maybe for me, and I think directing really is for me.
We know that we're here to work, and we can't come on these trips if we aren't putting out a product, which is our show. And if we don't, you know, people want to watch the show, so that's kind of the end result. So that's why we're here, is to get that shot and do that. So we kind of have to always keep that in the back of your mind. Have fun, which we do. We have a lot of fun. Sometimes people watch the show and think, man, these guys are just too serious, and that's because, well, nobody wants to sit around and watch all the horseplay we do all day. We do, behind the camera, in front of the camera, but you know, the show can't be 30 minutes of us, you know, poking at each other. We do that all day long anyway. But we are serious when it comes down to, you know, capturing the shots, and you know, when the drone's in the air, it's an expensive piece of machinery in the air, so we don't fool around with the guys operating the drone, and they do treat that very serious. And when we're driving the vehicles too, these are, you know, very expensive vehicles, got a lot invested into them. Our sponsors have a lot invested into them, so we don't take a lot of chances with the vehicles doing things that we probably would do in our own vehicles. They've got to still get us all the way back home, so sometimes that weighs on our mind. And I know as you're watching later on, and myself included, you say, man, maybe we should have taken the road unknown, or done a tougher trail that we know could have put vehicles in jeopardy. That doesn't always work that way when you're on the trip and you know you've got 7,000 more miles to drive those trucks.
Travel goes hand in hand with adversity, and adversity introduces a man to himself. Even the small interpersonal relationships that you have, the adversity that comes with those things, or you know, fuel issues, or this, that, or the other. I feel like it constantly is introducing you to who you are, and how you handle an issue is really important.
With that being as flawed as I am, I know all the other guys are flawed too, and that to me leads into what really makes you a great member of Expedition Overland, is understanding your flaws, being able to move through them with grace for the other guy, and allowing another guy to make mistakes. Even when you see a mistake starting to happen, if that's in his role, you're letting that guy make his mistake, and you're going to back him up, because as soon as he makes it, he's going to learn from it.
It takes a lot of work, as any good relationship does, and that's all that this is a bunch of interpersonal relationships working together towards a professional goal.
We've had to deal with different people, you know, whether it's people that we run into on the trip or people that you're working with side by side, and you really get to know somebody really well when you're spending day in, day out with them and working all that time.
I mean, everything from music selection to the smell of their feet. That starts to wear on you for sure. But I think the clarity that also comes with being out of your element and getting into other scenarios that you're not used to. So that clarity, I think, kind of overshadows a lot of those things, and you start to go, okay, it's just really not worth it for me to say something.
You know, it's easy to look in at what we're doing from the outside and think that you can't go to the places that we go, or do the things that we do, or even have adventure because you don't have cool stuff.
The guy that's driving the $500,000, $1 million type of earth roamer, having a ball, having a great time, to the person that has bought, you know, a $2,500 pickup, modified it, and went for it, and they're also having a great time. A lot of this stuff involved with overlanding is really just stuff. To me, it boils down to the person and where you're at in here and up here. This really dictates how much fun you're having.
There'll always be hurdles and invisible roadblocks. I don't have a rooftop tent yet. Oh well, take a ground tent. I don't have a fridge yet. Oh well, buy a block of ice. You know, go do the trip. It's not going to prevent you from doing anything.
It really is the perspective of the person behind the wheel, so to speak, in an overland trip or backcountry trip. It's not about the gear. It times becomes about it.
You can have fun with any vehicle or any tool or any toy that you have, or your own 2 feet, and just get out and explore and have a good time.
we're coming to the end of an amazing season. I've traveled the world, been around, been able to see a lot of this country and other countries too. But it's come at a cost to me personally, for sure. I've loved it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. But I definitely am coming into a new phase in my life. My boys are getting older, which has been awesome to have them on this trip. So I want to do a lot more of that. But I am recalibrating how much I'm going to be gone. I'm re-looking at what I need to do to be at home more. So the other day it came up. I haven't been home for a single one of my kids' birthdays in 4 years.
There's no way I would be able to do 90% of what I do if it wasn't for my wife and kids. Have some military background, so they're kind of built in and understand and know that daddy's always coming home when I leave. So my kiddos are kind of built that way. They understand and recognize that we're good to go. Do they miss me? Absolutely. Are there tears? Yeah, for sure. There's definitely an aspect of absence makes the heart grow fonder, and there's a line there for sure. And I've went over it and I've been under it. I'd definitely like to come on the underside for sure. I'd like to be home before it becomes detrimental to my kids, or where I'm missing memories that are really important to them.
You only have this much time in the universe to be on this planet, and narrowed down, you only have this much time to be parents of your kids. And I want to maximize my time coming up right now, especially as my boys have, coming into teenagers. It's go time for dad, and I'm going to really hit that hard. It's been inspirational to see other dads like Justin and Rob, and on our Australia trip, work with their boys. And I've taken great motivation from them on how I want my life to look with my children and my wife and all that. Go ahead and take it, Si. Send it.
My time with XO, which really hasn't been that long, has been awesome, because it's taught me so many things about myself, how to better communicate, it's really given me the confidence to do other things, not only within the overlanding community, but different areas of my life, and I am just extremely grateful for XO.
Expedition Overland has been a great experience for everybody. I think we've all found out a lot about ourselves, a lot about the world, a lot about different cultures, and I think we're all just going to carry that through, in our daily lives, and use it to the best of our abilities and become the best people that we can from here on out. So I'm looking forward to what's next on the horizon.
Yeah, there's going to be some changes to XO and how things are run, but then at some rate, I think change is great. We're looking at that now. Next steps are critical. We don't want to flippantly make decisions. We know what's on the line. We absolutely know what's on the line. And we need and want to be true to ourselves and what we need. So we will do that first, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Thank you, gentlemen.
You feeling good?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Plenty for me. Yeah?
Okay. Well, thank you.
Without question, Expedition Overland has truly enriched our lives. It's come at a sacrifice of some kind to everyone involved, that's for sure. It's had a cost. But in the end, anything worth anything has its price. The reward from our adventures has certainly overcome its cost many times over, and hopefully it's had a positive impact on you as well. Time is ultimately the greatest common denominator between all of us. We're all given the same amount of time every single day. Pursuing adventure, I think, is one of the most enriching ways to spend our time. It will give you perspectives on the world you never thought possible. It will provide you with confidence in ways unimaginable, and it will reward you with the best of things money can't buy. One of them being experience. And I think that's now ultimately what we all crave the most, new experiences. As far as Overland goes, there is no shortage of opportunities ahead of us. It's now time for us, like probably many of you, to take a new bearing and go. The world awaits.
But it looks like the wind actually doubles in speed tomorrow. So I think we get as far as we can today, and then we turn around and we start getting back up to higher elevation as soon as possible, unless the weather improves.